The Valdorian massacre should have been the end of organic warfare as we knew it. 3 billion souls, dissolved into constituent molecules in less than 6 minutes. The hydro-weapons had spoken their terrible verdict, and the galaxy listened with trembling appendages. My name is Crex579, and I am what you might call a military analyst for the Galactic Defense Council. Though after what I witnessed on the human colony of Meridian 7, I question whether any of our tactical doctrines mean anything anymore. Let me be perfectly clear about something. When the Scornathi Empire first deployed hydro-weapons against the Tessarian fleet, we all thought we were witnessing the birth of the ultimate deterrent. These weapons, you see, are not your typical plasma cannons or particle beams. Oh no, they are far more elegant in their horror. Hydro-weapons contain a liquid compound that, when released into an atmosphere, seeks out the water content in any living tissue. The process is, well, imagine every drop of moisture in your body suddenly deciding it no longer wants to be part of you. The dissolution is instantaneous, complete. There is no defense, no armor thick enough, no shield strong enough to stop liquid death from finding its way into your cells. For 200 cycles, every species in the galaxy lived in mortal terror of these weapons. Wars ended not in victory or defeat, but in mutual agreements never to deploy them. The Scornathi kept their stockpiles as insurance against total annihilation. The Vorthak Confederacy built vast underground bunkers to hide from the mere possibility of hydro-weapon strikes. Even the warrior clans of Drakmor, who considered death in battle the highest honor, would retreat rather than face hydro-weapons in combat. So naturally, when the humans asked for military support against the Zurian invasion of their outer colonies, every single member of the Galactic Defense Council laughed until our breathing apparatus malfunctioned. You want us to fight alongside a species that has never seen combat beyond their own planetary disputes? Senator Vax Prime wheezed through his filtration system. Against Zurians, who possessed the largest hydro-weapon arsenal in the known galaxy. I remember sitting in that council chamber, my 6 eyes focused on the human ambassador. Her name was Kate Sullivan, and she possessed this peculiar trait that I would later learn was common among her species. She smiled when delivering terrible news. "With respect, Senator," she said, her voice carrying an odd musical quality that made my translator circuits work overtime. "We did not ask for your military support because we fear the Xerians. We asked because we thought you might enjoy watching what happens when someone tries to use hydro-weapons against humans." The silence that followed could have powered a small star. 3 months later, I found myself aboard the observation cruiser Eternal Vigilance, positioned at a safe distance from Meridian 7. The Xerian battle fleet had arrived exactly as predicted, their dreadnoughts bristling with hydro-weapon deployment systems. 47 ships of the line, each capable of sterilizing a continent with a single volley. The human defensive fleet consisted of 12 vessels that looked like they had been assembled from spare parts in someone's garage. Their largest ship, the Defiant Bastard, appeared to be held together with what I can only describe as aggressive optimism and metallic tape. "This is going to be a slaughter," muttered Commander Yarks92 from beside me. "We should have convinced them to evacuate." I activated my recording systems as the Xerian flagship Death Certainty began broadcasting on all frequencies. "Human colonists of Meridian 7, the voice crackled with typical Xerian arrogance. "You have 30 standard minutes to surrender your territory and submit to absorption into the Xerian Empire. Failure to comply will result in hydro-weapon deployment and complete biological liquidation of your population." The human response came not from their flagship but from the surface of the planet itself. A woman's voice, calm as still water and twice as dangerous. "This is Colonel Maria Santos, commanding officer of Meridian 7 Colonial Defense Force. To the Xerian fleet we have a counter-proposal. You have 29 minutes to withdraw from our system, before we show you exactly what humans think of your hydro-weapons. I have heard many threats delivered across the void of space in my career. Most are bluster designed to buy time or create doubt. This was different. This was a promise." The Xerian commander's laughter could probably be heard on 3 different star systems. "Foolish mammals, your bravado will not save you from dissolution. Hydro-weapons do not discriminate based on courage or stupidity." "You are absolutely right," came the reply from Colonel Santos. "They do not discriminate. Fire when ready." What happened next defied every principle of warfare I had studied in my 4 centuries of military analysis. The Zurians, clearly eager to demonstrate the futility of human resistance, launched not a full barrage but a single hydroweapon toward the planet's surface. Standard procedure when dealing with new species. Let them watch their comrades dissolve, then offer surrender terms again. The weapon struck the human settlement with perfect accuracy. I watched through my observation scopes as the deadly liquid spread across the colony's main plaza, seeking living tissue to dissolve. And then something impossible happened. Humans began walking out of their shelters and into the spreading hydro-weapon cloud. "By the 7 hells of Morgoth," whispered Commander Yix-92, "they are committing mass suicide. They would rather die quickly than face absorption." But they were not dying. They were drinking it. I watched in stunned silence as a human child, no more than 10 cycles old by my estimation, knelt down and cupped the deadly liquid in his hands before consuming it like water. A group of human soldiers filled their canteens with the hydro-weapon residue. An elderly human woman used it to water her garden. Impossible, I breathed into my recorder. The liquid should be dissolving their cellular structure instantly. Instead, they appeared to be enjoying it. Colonel Santos' voice returned to the communication channels, but now she was broadcasting on visual frequencies as well. Her image appeared on every screen in our observation vessel. She was standing in the middle of the hydro-weapon impact zone, holding a container of the deadly liquid. "Attention, Zerian fleet," she said, raising the container in what appeared to be a salute. "Thank you for the refreshments. It has been a long day and my troops were getting thirsty." Then, maintaining eye contact with the camera, she drank the entire container of hydro-weapon liquid in one long swallow. The silence on our bridge was so complete I could hear my own circulatory system functioning. Colonel Santos wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and continued speaking. "Now I believe I mentioned something about showing you what humans think of your hydro-weapons. Since you were kind enough to provide us with a sample, allow me to demonstrate our appreciation." Behind her, human soldiers were loading containers of the collected hydro-weapon liquid into their own weapon systems. "Impossible," Commander Yip-92 repeated. "No species can consume hydro-weapons and survive. The molecular dissolution is absolute." "Attention all vessels," Colonel Santos continued. "You have 18 minutes remaining in our countdown. I suggest you use them wisely." The Zerian response was predictable in its arrogance. "Human deception will not save you. Hydro-weapons cannot be consumed by organic beings. This is some technological trickery designed to create false confidence." "Technological trickery?" Colonel Santos laughed, and the sound contained no humor whatsoever. "Commander, I am going to tell you something that will keep you awake for the rest of your miserable existence. What you call hydro-weapons, we call Monday morning hangover cure." She gestured to the human settlement behind her, where citizens were going about their daily business, many of them still sipping from containers of hydro-weapon liquid. "You see, humans evolved on a planet where 70% of the surface is covered in the same base compound as your ultimate weapon. We are, quite literally, made of the stuff you use to dissolve other species. Your hydro-weapons are not death to us. They are lunch." The tactical implications of this statement struck me like a meteor impact. If humans were immune to hydro-weapons, then the primary advantage of the Syrian military was not merely neutralized. It was transformed into a supply line for human forces. But the demonstration was far from over. "Captain Jake Morrison," Colonel Santos called out, "please show our guests what we have learned to do with their generous donations." A young human male stepped forward, carrying what appeared to be a standard plasma rifle modified with additional liquid storage tanks. The tanks were filled with hydro-weapon fluid. "With pleasure, Colonel," he replied, shouldering the weapon and aiming it at a distant target drone. The projectile that emerged from his weapon was not plasma, but a concentrated stream of hydro-weapon liquid. It struck the drone with precision accuracy, and the metal construct dissolved instantly. "Remarkable," I whispered into my recorder. "They have weaponized their immunity." Commander UX-92 was frantically operating his communication systems. "I must inform the Council immediately. The tactical balance of the entire galaxy has shifted." Colonel Santos was not finished with her demonstration. Computer, please display the current inventory status of our hydro weapon supplies. A holographic display appeared showing storage levels throughout the human colony. The numbers were staggering. As you can see, she continued, thanks to previous Gurian attacks on human settlements, we have accumulated quite substantial reserves. The 17 colonies you destroyed over the past 6 months were very generous in their final contributions to our war effort. My understanding of recent events underwent a complete revision. The Assyrian attacks on human settlements had not been one-sided massacres. They had been supply-run. Every time you use hydro weapons against us, Colonel Santos explained, you are literally feeding us the tools we need to destroy you. It is the most efficient logistics system ever developed in the history of warfare. The Zarian commander's response carried the first notes of uncertainty I had ever heard from their species. This is impossible. No evolutionary pathway could produce immunity to universal biological dissolution. You want to know the truly amusing part? Colonel Santos asked, her smile becoming genuinely terrifying. We did not even know we were immune until you started shooting at us. We thought hydro weapons were just a really inconvenient way to deliver water. She paused for effect, allowing the full implications to settle in. The first time you hit one of our colonies, we thought it was some kind of practical joke. Our scientists spent weeks trying to figure out why someone would bombard us with what appeared to be slightly mineralized drinking water. It was not until our intelligence services explained the concept of hydro weapons that we realized you were actually trying to kill us. The tactical officer on our bridge began calculating frantically. If humans can consume unlimited quantities of hydro weapons without harm, and if they can weaponize the collected liquid, then every hydro weapon in the galaxy becomes a tool for human expansion. I finished his thought. Colonel Santos raised her voice to address the Zoran fleet directly. You have 12 minutes remaining. I suggest you use this time to consider whether you really want to continue feeding us ammunition for our weapons. The response from the Zurian flagship came in the form of action rather than words. Every hydro weapon system on every ship in their fleet began charging simultaneously. They are preparing for full planetary bombardment, reported our tactical officer. 47 ships worth of hydro weapons, all targeting Meridian 7. I activated emergency recording protocols. Whatever was about to happen would reshape galactic warfare forever. Colonel Santos. I found myself transmitting on an open channel. 47 dreadnoughts are preparing to release their entire hydro weapon arsenal. The volume of liquid will be unprecedented. Her response chilled my exoskeleton to its core. I know, she said, and her smile broadened. We have been waiting for them to do exactly that. Waiting? Commander Yukshanine II gasped. They want to be hit with that much firepower? Think about it, I whispered, my tactical training finally catching up with the implications. If humans can consume hydro weapons safely, and if they can weaponize collected liquid, then the largest hydro weapon bombardment in galactic history will provide them with enough ammunition to conquer half the known galaxy, he finished. Colonel Santos raised her hand, and across the human settlement, thousands of people emerged from their buildings carrying empty containers. Storage tanks, buckets, barrels, even children with cups and bottles. Citizens of Meridian 7, she announced, prepare for the largest supply drop in human history. The Zarian fleet fired as one. 47 ships worth of hydro weapons descended toward the planet like a rain of liquid death. The volume was so massive it would have dissolved every living thing on 3 planets simultaneously. Instead, it was the galaxy's most expensive drinks delivery service. As the hydro weapon bombardment reached the planet's surface, humans swarmed out to collect every drop. What should have been a scene of total annihilation became something resembling a community festival. Children laughed as they filled containers. Adults organized collection teams with military efficiency. Even the elderly participated, treating the deadly liquid like the gift of water to a desert planet. Impossible, breathed Commander Yukshanine II. They are collecting enough hydro weapon liquid to supply an army. No, I corrected him, watching the humans work with terrifying enthusiasm. They are collecting enough to supply several armies. Colonel Santos reappeared on the communication channels, but now she was standing beside massive storage tanks filled with hydro weapon liquid. The tanks were the size of small buildings. The Turian fleet, she called out. Thank you for the most generous military aid package in galactic history. You have just provided us with enough ammunition to liberate every oppressed planet within 50 light-years. The silence from the Zurian ships was absolute. Now, she continued, you have 3 minutes to withdraw from our system. After that we begin field testing our new weapons on your hulls, but the Zurians, being Zurians, chose to demonstrate why their empire was failing. Instead of withdrawing, they began charging their conventional weapons. If hydro weapons will not work, the Zurian commander snarled, we will use plasma cannons and particle beams to reduce your planet to molten slag. Colonel Santos looked directly at the camera, and her expression shifted from amusement to something far more dangerous. I was hoping you would say that. The human defensive fleet, which had remained motionless throughout the hydro weapon bombardment, suddenly burst into activity, but instead of charging their plasma weapons or raising defensive shields, they were loading their newly collected hydro weapon supplies into every available weapons system. All ships, Colonel Santos commanded. Weapons free. Target the Zurian flagship first. Let us show them what happens when you give humans unlimited ammunition. The first salvo from the human fleet was unlike anything I had ever witnessed. Instead of energy beams or explosive projectiles, streams of weaponized hydro weapon liquid erupted from dozens of ships simultaneously. The effect on the Zurian dreadnought death certainty was immediate and catastrophic. The ship's armor, designed to withstand plasma cannons and nuclear warheads, dissolved like sugar in acid. Within seconds, the massive vessel was reduced to its basic atomic components. Impossible, Commander UX-92 whispered. They just destroyed a Zurian dreadnought with a single volley. The remaining Zurian ships tried to retreat, but human weapons had range advantages they had never anticipated. Hydro weapon liquid could be accelerated to near light speeds using magnetic containment systems, giving human ships effective engagement ranges that exceeded traditional weapons by orders of magnitude. One by one, the mighty Zurian fleet dissolved into constituent atoms. This concludes our demonstration, Colonel Santos announced as the last Zurian ship vanished into molecular mist. For any other species considering military action against human territories, please note that we now have sufficient hydro weapon supplies to defend against approximately 3,000 similar fleets. She paused, looking directly into the camera with an expression that would haunt my dreams. We would like to thank the Zurian Empire for their contribution to human military advancement. Their sacrifice will be remembered every time we use their gifts to liberate other worlds from oppression. The transmission ended, leaving our observation vessel in stunned silence. By all the gods of war, Commander UX-92 whispered, what have we witnessed? The end of an era, I replied, staring at the space where the Zurian fleet had been. And the beginning of something far more terrifying, because now I understood the true horror of what we had just observed. It was not merely that humans were immune to the galaxy's most feared weapon. It was not even that they could turn those weapons against their enemies. It was that they were just getting started. The emergency session of the Galactic Defense Council convened exactly 18 hours after the Meridian 7 incident. I had never seen so many species gathered in one chamber, all united by a single emotion: absolute terror. Order! Order! Senator Prime Designate Hex 113 banged his ceremonial staff against the podium hard enough to crack the titanium surface. We will hear the tactical report from Observer Crex 579. As I approached the central speaking platform, my locomotion appendages trembled slightly. 300 pairs of eyes, optical sensors, and various other perception organs focused on me with laser-like intensity. Honorable Senators, I began, my voice amplifier struggling with the weight of what I had to report. What we witnessed at Meridian 7 represents nothing less than the complete obsolescence of our current understanding of galactic warfare. A ripple of uneasy chittering swept through the assembly. The humans demonstrated not merely immunity to hydro weapons, but the ability to consume them as if they were nutritional supplements. Furthermore, they have developed weapon systems that utilize collected hydro weapon liquid as ammunition with devastating effectiveness. Senator Kix Prime Omega from the Drakmor warrior clans leaned forward in his battle-scarred exoskeleton. You are telling us that the most feared weapon in galactic history has become human refreshment. That is correct, Senator. but the tactical implications extend far beyond simple immunity. I activated the holographic display showing the battle footage. Watch carefully as the human fleet engages the Zurian dreadnoughts. The assembled senators watched in stunned silence as human weapons dissolved Zurian ships with surgical precision. When the footage ended, the chamber remained quiet for nearly a full minute. "By the eternal flames of Corfax," whispered Ambassador Lix-77 from the Vorthak Confederacy, "they turned our ultimate weapon into their ultimate weapon." "The situation is worse than you realize," I continued, consulting my tactical analysis. "Based on the volume of hydro weapons collected during the bombardment, humans now possess sufficient ammunition to field test their new weapon systems against approximately 12 major fleet formations." "Field test?" Senator Hikes 113's breathing apparatus wheezed with alarm. "Are you suggesting they intend to seek out additional combat?" Before I could respond, the chamber's communication systems activated automatically. An incoming transmission was being broadcast on all emergency frequencies throughout the galaxy. The holographic projector displayed a human female I did not recognize from the Meridian 7 engagement. She wore what appeared to be a military uniform, though human fashion remained incomprehensible to me. "Greetings to all species of the Galactic Defense Council," she said, her voice carrying that same dangerous musical quality I had noticed in other human communications. "My name is Admiral Rebecca Torres, commanding officer of the newly formed Human Liberation Fleet." Liberation Fleet. The implications of that designation sent ice through my circulatory system. "We are broadcasting this message to inform you that human forces are currently en route to 17 star systems where indigenous populations are suffering under the oppression of hydro-weapon-equipped tyrannies." Senator Kix Prime Omega's battle scars flushed crimson with agitation. "They are declaring war on 17 different empires simultaneously." Admiral Torres continued as if she could hear his question. "To any species currently employing hydro-weapons as tools of oppression, we offer a simple choice: withdraw from occupied territories and destroy your hydro-weapon stockpiles, or face the consequences of supplying ammunition to forces dedicated to your overthrow." The chamber erupted in panicked discussions across dozens of different languages. I raised my voice amplifier to maximum intensity. "There is more," I announced, silencing the assembly. "Our intelligence networks have detected massive human military movements throughout the Outer Rim territories. They are not merely responding to threats, they are actively hunting hydro-weapon stockpiles." Ambassador Lix-77's tentacles writhed with nervous energy. "How many ships are we discussing?" "Current estimates suggest the Human Liberation Fleet consists of over 300 vessels, with more being constructed daily. But the truly concerning development is their recruitment strategy." I activated another display showing intercepted communications from various oppressed worlds. Humans have been broadcasting recruitment messages to populations suffering under hydro-weapon tyranny. The response has been overwhelming. The display showed massive civilian evacuations from dozens of worlds, all heading toward human-controlled space. "They are not just building a military force," I explained. "They are constructing a coalition of every species that has ever suffered under hydro-weapon attacks." The tactical designation appears to be the Immune Alliance. "Immune Alliance?" Senator Hicks 113's breathing apparatus clicked rapidly. "Are you implying that other species share human immunity to hydro-weapons?" "No, Senator. But they no longer need to fear hydro-weapons because humans can neutralize them on contact. Any species fighting alongside human forces gains effective immunity through proximity protection." The strategic implications struck the assembly like a meteor impact. If humans could extend hydro-weapon immunity to allied forces, then every oppressed population in the galaxy had reason to join their cause. Admiral Torfus reappeared on the communication display, but now she was standing on what appeared to be the bridge of a massive warship. "For those wondering about our capabilities," she said, "allow me to provide a brief demonstration." The display shifted to show external cameras focusing on a distant asteroid field. Human ships moved into formation with precision that impressed even my tactical analysis protocols. "Target designated Asteroid 77 Alpha," Admiral Torres announced. "Distance, 43 million kilometers. Engaging with hydro-accelerated ammunition." The human flagship fired a single projectile. At that range, conventional weapons would require several minutes to reach their target. The hydro weapon projectile arrived in less than 30 seconds. The asteroid, roughly the size of a small moon, dissolved completely. Effective range of human hydro weapons appears to exceed traditional weapons by a factor of 15. Admiral Torsa continued conversationally. Accuracy remains consistent at extreme distances due to liquid cohesion properties. She paused, looking directly into the camera, with an expression I was learning to recognize as distinctly human satisfaction. Any questions? The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Defense Council in absolute silence. We are witnessing the birth of a new galactic superpower, I said quietly. One built specifically to counter the primary weapons system that has maintained the balance of power for 2 centuries. Senator Kix Prime Omega stood, his battle-scarred frame radiating grim determination. What are their intentions towards species that do not employ hydro weapons? Before I could speculate, our communication systems activated again. This time, the transmission came from the Scornathi Empire, the original developers of hydro weapon technology. Emperor Vex Prime Supreme appeared on the display, his ceremonial armor gleaming with medals from 1,000 conquests. The Scornathi had not communicated with the Galactic Defense Council in over 50 cycles. Pathetic creatures of the Council, he began with typical Scornathi arrogance. We have monitored your panic regarding the human insurgency. The Scornathi Empire will demonstrate why hydro weapons remain the ultimate expression of military superiority. My tactical analysis systems immediately began calculating the implications. The Scornathi possessed the largest hydro weapon arsenal in known space, accumulated over centuries of conquest and intimidation. We have dispatched the first Imperial Armada to the human colony of New Terra, Emperor Vex Prime Supreme continued. 500 ships of the line, each equipped with advanced hydro weapon systems. The human infection will be sterilized, and order will be restored to the galaxy. The transmission ended with typical Scornathi dramatic flair. 500 ships, whispered Ambassador Lix-77. That is the largest military formation deployed in over a century. It is also potentially the largest ammunition delivery in galactic history, I replied grimly. Commander UX-92 activated his communication array from beside me. Observer Krex, we are receiving priority transmissions from our monitoring stations throughout the galaxy. You need to hear this. The display activated, showing reports from intelligence operatives across dozens of star systems. Vorthak Confederacy reporting massive slave uprisings on 7 occupied worlds. Local populations are broadcasting human liberation fleet recruitment messages. Drakmore intelligence confirms departure of 3 Scornathi support fleets from home territories. They appear to be converging on human space. Economic monitoring stations report complete collapse of hydro weapon trading markets. No species are purchasing weapons they know humans will confiscate and redirect. Military contractors across the galaxy are reporting unprecedented orders for conventional weapons. Hydro weapon manufacturers are filing bankruptcy declarations. The reports continued for several minutes, painting a picture of galactic civilization restructuring itself around the new reality of human military capabilities. How long before the Scornathi reach New Terra? Senator Hex-113 asked. 14 standard hours, I replied after consulting our tactical databases. But I suspect the humans already know they are coming. As if summoned by my words, Admiral Torres reappeared on our communication systems. Galactic Defense Council, she said. We are aware that you have been monitoring recent developments. We thought you might be interested in observing the engagement at New Terra. Consider it an educational opportunity. The display shifted to show the human colony world of New Terra. Unlike Meridian 7, this was clearly a major population center with orbital defense platforms and substantial infrastructure. The Scornathi First Imperial Armada is approaching our system, Admiral Torres continued conversationally. 500 ships carrying what our intelligence estimates suggest is approximately 60% of all hydro weapons remaining in galactic circulation. She paused, and her smile became absolutely terrifying. We have prepared appropriate reception facilities. The display zoomed out to show the space around New Terra. What I saw defied every principle of defensive strategy I had ever studied. Instead of hiding behind fortified positions or spreading their forces to minimize damage, Humans had assembled their entire fleet in open space. 300 ships arranged in a perfect sphere around the planet, with gaps wide enough for enemy forces to pass through easily. "This is suicide," Commander UX-92 gasped. "They are presenting themselves as easy targets for the largest hydro-weapon arsenal in the galaxy." "No," I whispered, finally understanding the tactical genius of human strategy. "They are not presenting themselves as targets. They are presenting themselves as collection systems." Admiral Torres continued her narration as the Scornathi fleet appeared at the edge of the system. "Citizens of New Terra," she announced, "please prepare all available storage containers. We are about to receive the largest supply delivery in human history." The Scornathi response was predictable in its overwhelming arrogance. Emperor Vex Prime Supreme himself commanded the flagship Eternal Dominion, and his voice boomed across all communication frequencies. "Insignificant humans. You face the might of 500 dreadnoughts carrying enough hydro-weapons to dissolve a dozen star systems. Surrender now, and we will grant you the mercy of quick dissolution." Admiral Torres replied with what I was learning to recognize as characteristic human understatement. "Thank you for the generous offer, Emperor. We decline. Please proceed with your attack when ready. Your defiance will be remembered for the few moments you have left to exist." Emperor Vex Prime Supreme snarled. "All ships, full hydro-weapon bombardment. Leave nothing but empty space." What happened next surpassed even the devastation at Meridian 7. 500 Scornathi dreadnoughts fired simultaneously, releasing the accumulated hydro-weapon production of 2 centuries in a single overwhelming barrage. The volume of deadly liquid was sufficient to dissolve every living thing on 50 populated worlds. Instead, it became the galaxy's most spectacular drinks party. As the hydro-weapons reached New Terra's orbital space, human ships moved with choreographed precision. Instead of dodging the incoming liquid death, they positioned themselves to intercept every drop. Massive collection systems deployed from human vessels, gathering the hydro-weapon liquid with industrial efficiency. What should have been total annihilation became the most successful resource extraction operation in galactic history. "Impossible," breathed Senator Kux Prime Omega. "They are collecting the entire Scornathi arsenal." But the demonstration was far from over. As soon as the last of the hydro-weapon liquid was collected, human ships began redistributing their newly acquired ammunition. Loading systems worked with terrifying efficiency, transferring liquid death from storage tanks to weapons systems. "All ships," Admiral Torres commanded, "weapons hot, target the Scornathi flagship first. Let us show the Emperor what happens when you gift ammunition to your enemies." The human counterattack began with surgical precision. Instead of the overwhelming barrage the Scornathi had delivered, human forces fired measured, accurate shots using weaponized hydro-weapon liquid. The effect on Scornathi vessels was catastrophic. Ships that had dominated galactic warfare for centuries dissolved like ice in acid. The mighty Eternal Dominion lasted less than 10 seconds under concentrated human fire. Emperor Vex Prime Supreme's final transmission carried a note I had never heard from Scornathi leadership: terror. "This is impossible. No species can survive hydro-weapons. No species can weaponize them. This defies the natural order." "Your natural order," Admiral Torres replied calmly, "was built on the assumption that you possessed weapons others could not use against you. That assumption was incorrect." The last Scornathi ship dissolved into atomic mist, taking with it the military superiority that had maintained their empire for 8 centuries. "This concludes our demonstration," Admiral Torres announced. "The Scornathi Empire no longer exists as a military threat. Their hydro-weapon arsenal has been repurposed for liberation operations throughout the galaxy." She looked directly into the camera with an expression that made my exoskeleton shiver. "Any other empires wishing to contribute to human military supplies are welcome to attack our colonies. We have plenty of storage space." The transmission ended, leaving the Galactic Defense Council in stunned silence. "In less than 1 standard day," I announced to the Assembly, "humans have acquired enough hydro-weapon ammunition to challenge every major military power in the galaxy simultaneously. And they are just getting started," Commander UX-92 added grimly. Because even as we watched, reports were flooding in from across the galaxy. Human Liberation Fleet vessels were appearing at oppressed worlds throughout known space. Species that had suffered under hydro-weapon tyranny for generations were joining the human cause in massive numbers. The age of hydro-weapon dominance was over. The age of human expansion was just beginning. 6 months after the Scornathi Empire dissolved into atomic mist, I found myself in the most unlikely position of my 4-century career, sitting across a negotiation table from Admiral Rebecca Torres in what had once been the Galactic Defense Council chambers. The irony was not lost on me. The species we had initially dismissed as primitive planetary dwellers now occupied the seat reserved for galactic superpowers. Observer Crex 579. Admiral Tor said, her voice carrying that same dangerous musical quality that had become the soundtrack of galactic transformation. Thank you for agreeing to serve as liaison between human forces and the remaining sovereign systems. Remaining sovereign systems. The phrase carried weight that would have been unimaginable a year ago. Of the 47 major empires that had ruled the galaxy through hydro-weapon superiority, only 12 still maintained independent governments. The rest had either been dissolved by human intervention or voluntarily surrendered their hydro-weapon arsenals in exchange for protection. The honor is mine, Admiral, I replied, though honor seemed an inadequate term for being present at the reshaping of galactic civilization. The Council is eager to understand human intentions regarding the new galactic structure. She smiled, and I had learned to be very afraid when humans smiled. Intentions are simple. Observer. We intend to ensure that no species ever again lives in fear of hydro-weapon annihilation. Behind her, the massive holographic display showed real-time updates from across the galaxy. Green indicators marked systems under human protection. Red indicators showed the location of remaining hydro-weapon stockpiles. The map looked like a strategic board game where humans were winning by an overwhelming margin. If I may ask, I continued carefully, what happens to species that refuse to surrender their hydro-weapon arsenals? They contribute them involuntarily, she replied with the same conversational tone she might use to discuss weather patterns. Before I could respond, Commander Gex 92 burst into the chamber, his locomotion appendages clicking frantically against the floor. Admiral Torres. Observer Crex, he gasped through his breathing apparatus. We have a situation developing in the Andromax sector. The holographic display immediately shifted to show the far edge of known space, where 3 species had formed what they called the Final Alliance. The Morgothian Empire, the Nethrix Dominion, and the Zephyrian Collective had pooled their remaining hydro-weapon stockpiles for one last desperate attempt to stop human expansion. How many ships? Admiral Torvas asked, her demeanor shifting instantly from diplomat to military commander. 1,500 vessels, Commander Yx-92 reported. They have concentrated every hydro-weapon remaining in the Outer Rim territories. Our intelligence estimates suggest they possess enough liquid ammunition to dissolve 3 star systems completely. I felt my exoskeleton chill with recognition. 1,500 ships represented the largest military formation in recorded galactic history. Even humans could not possibly collect and process that volume of hydro-weapons simultaneously. Interesting, Admiral Church mused, studying the tactical display. They have chosen the Nexus system as their staging area. Excellent choice for a final stand. Excellent choice? I sputtered. Admiral, the Nexus system contains 7 inhabited worlds with a combined population of 40 billion beings. If that much hydro-weapon liquid is released in a single location, it will provide us with enough ammunition to eliminate every remaining threat in the galaxy, she finished calmly. The tactical implications struck me like a meteor impact. The Final Alliance believed they were forcing humans into an impossible choice: retreat or watch 40 billion innocent beings dissolve. Instead, they were delivering the largest weapons shipment in galactic history directly to human forces. You cannot be serious, I whispered. Even human collection systems have limits. 1,500 ships worth of hydro-weapons will overwhelm any containment protocol. Admiral Torvax activated her personal communication device. All Liberation Fleet commanders, this is Admiral Torvaz. Set course for the Nexus system. Operation Final Collection is now active. Admiral, I protested, you will be responsible for the deaths of 40 billion beings. She turned to face me directly, and for the first time since our initial meeting, her expression became completely serious. Observer, Krex, I am going to share something with you that will fundamentally change your understanding of human capabilities. We have not been entirely forthcoming about the extent of our hydro-weapon immunity. The holographic display shifted to show what appeared to be a technical schematic of human biology. When we told you that humans evolved on a planet where 70% of the surface is covered in water, we were simplifying for easier comprehension. The reality is far more complex. The schematic zoomed in on human cellular structure, revealing details that defied my understanding of biological chemistry. Humans are not merely immune to hydro-weapon dissolution, Admiral Torres continued. Human cellular structure actively processes hydro-weapon compounds and converts them into energy. We do not simply survive contact with these weapons. We metabolize them. My tactical analysis system struggled to process the implications. You are telling me that hydro-weapons actually make humans stronger, considerably stronger. The more hydro-weapon liquid a human consumes, the more enhanced their physical and cognitive capabilities become. What you have been witnessing is not human technology defeating galactic supremacy. You have been watching humans getting progressively more powerful with each engagement. She gestured to the tactical display showing human fleet movements. The Liberation fleet now consists of over 8,000 vessels, crewed by humans who have been continuously enhanced through hydro-weapon exposure. Our soldiers can survive in vacuum without protection. Our pilots can process tactical information at superhuman speeds. Our engineers can design weapons systems that exceed the performance parameters of anything previously constructed. The scope of human deception was staggering. They had not merely survived galactic warfare. They had been deliberately feeding on it. The 40 billion beings in the Nexus system, Admiral Torres continued, will be evacuated to safety before the final alliance arrives. We have been preparing refugee facilities for exactly this scenario, but their hydro-weapon arsenal will remain for our collection. Commander Yux-92 activated emergency communication protocols. All Council members, this is a priority alert. Human capabilities have been significantly underestimated. Recommend immediate unconditional surrender to prevent further escalation. Admiral Torres raised her hand to interrupt him. Commander, that will not be necessary. After the final alliance contributes their ammunition to our cause, there will be no remaining hydro-weapon stockpiles in the galaxy. The age of weapons-based intimidation will be permanently concluded. The holographic display switched to real-time feeds from the Nexus system. Human evacuation fleets were indeed moving 40 billion beings to safety with efficiency that defied logistical comprehension. Massive transport vessels appeared and disappeared through what appeared to be instantaneous travel systems. How are you moving populations that quickly? I demanded. Hydro-weapon energy conversion allows for technology that was previously impossible, Admiral Torres explained. Enhanced humans can engineer solutions that conventional science considers fictional. The final Alliance fleet appeared at the edge of the Nexus system exactly as predicted. 1,500 ships in perfect formation carrying enough hydro-weapons to end galactic civilization. Emperor Morgoth Prime Supreme transmitted on all frequencies with typical dramatic flair. Humans, you face the combined might of 3 empires. Surrender now or watch 40 billion beings dissolve before your eyes. Admiral Torres responded personally from the bridge of her flagship. Emperor Morgoth, we appreciate your generous contribution to human military advancement. The 40 billion beings you mentioned have been relocated to safety. Please proceed with your hydro-weapon deployment when ready. Relocated? Emperor Morgoth sputtered. Impossible. No force in the galaxy can evacuate 40 billion beings in 6 hours. No conventional force, Admiral Torres agreed. Please check your sensors. The final Alliance sensor sweeps confirmed what their leaders refused to believe. The Nexus system was completely evacuated except for human collection fleets positioned throughout the star system. This is some technological deception, Emperor Morgoth declared. We will fire regardless. Excellent, Admiral Torres replied. We have been looking forward to this delivery. The final Alliance fired everything simultaneously. 1,500 ships released the accumulated hydroweapon production of multiple star systems in the largest military bombardment in galactic history. The volume of liquid death was sufficient to dissolve entire sectors of space. Instead, it became the final meal of human ascension. Human collection fleets moved through the hydroweapon barrage with impossible grace, gathering every drop of liquid while their crews underwent visible enhancement in real time. I watched through remote sensors as human soldiers literally grew larger and stronger as they processed incoming hydroweapons. "By all the gods of war," Commander X-92 whispered, "they are not just collecting the weapons. They are absorbing the energy directly." Human ships began to change as well. Hull plating became more efficient. Weapons systems upgraded themselves automatically. Engine performance increased beyond measurable parameters. "What you are witnessing," Admiral Torres explained conversationally, while her fleet consumed the final alliance's ultimate weapon, "is human evolution in real time. Hydroweapon exposure triggers adaptive enhancement protocols in human biology. We become whatever we need to become to process the threat." The final alliance watched in growing horror as their ultimate weapon transformed their enemies into something beyond conventional understanding. "Impossible," Emperor Morgoth screamed. "No species can evolve that rapidly." "No conventional species," Admiral Torres corrected. "But humans are not conventional." As the last of the hydroweapon barrage was absorbed, human ships began their counterattack. But these were no longer the weapons systems I had observed at previous engagements. These were technologies that defied physical laws. Human ships fired projectiles that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Energy beams that ignored conventional armor by attacking targets at the molecular level. Weapons that seemed to dissolve space itself. The final Alliance fleet lasted exactly 97 seconds. "This concludes the hydroweapon era of galactic civilization," Admiral Torres announced as the last enemy vessel vanished into constituent atoms. "Human forces now possess complete technological superiority throughout known space." The transmission shifted to show the true scope of human expansion. The holographic display revealed human presence in every star system containing intelligent life, not as conquerors, but as protectors, to all remaining sovereign governments. Admiral Torres continued, "Humanity offers a simple proposition. Join the Galactic Liberation Alliance as equal partners in a civilization based on cooperation rather than intimidation, or continue existing as independent systems under human protection. Hydroweapons are extinct, tyranny is extinct, fear is extinct." She paused, looking directly at the camera with an expression that somehow managed to be both terrifying and reassuring. "The choice is yours, but the age of human dominance has begun whether you participate or not." The transmission ended, leaving the former Galactic Defense Council chambers in absolute silence. "Observer Krex," Admiral Tor said, turning back to face me. "What do you think the remaining governments will choose?" I considered the question carefully. Humans now possessed technology that exceeded the combined capabilities of all other species. They had demonstrated the ability to evacuate entire star systems, deploy weapons that ignored conventional defenses, and evolve their capabilities in real time. But more importantly, they had spent the past year liberating oppressed populations rather than conquering them. "I believe," I said slowly, "that most species will choose cooperation over independence. Humans have proven themselves to be surprisingly reasonable conquerors." "We prefer the term evolutionary facilitators," Admiral Torres corrected with a smile. "Our goal was never conquest. Our goal was ensuring that no species ever again lived in fear of annihilation." She gestured to the holographic display which now showed peaceful human fleet movements throughout the galaxy. Hydroweapons represented everything wrong with galactic civilization. Weapons so terrible that their mere existence prevented progress. Fear so absolute that it stagnated technological development. Tyranny so complete that entire species never reached their potential. "And now," I asked, "now we build something better. Human enhancement abilities, combined with the knowledge and creativity of hundreds of species. Technology limited only by imagination rather than fear. Exploration driven by curiosity rather than conquest." Commander Yux-92 activated his communication systems. "Observer Krix, I am receiving surrender transmissions from all remaining sovereign governments. They are requesting terms for joining the Galactic Liberation Alliance. Terms are simple, Admiral Torres announced. Contribute your unique capabilities to galactic advancement. Share your knowledge freely with all species. Treat every being with dignity regardless of origin. In return, humanity guarantees protection from any threat, access to enhanced technology, and equal participation in galactic governance. And if someone violates these terms? I asked. Her smile became absolutely terrifying once again. Then they discover why humans evolved the ability to metabolize the galaxy's most deadly weapons. Over the following months, I witnessed the transformation of galactic civilization from a collection of fearful empires into something unprecedented in known history. Species that had been enemies for millennia began collaborating on projects that benefited everyone. Technology advanced at exponential rates as human enhancement capabilities combined with alien innovation. The Hydra Wars, as historians would later call them, had lasted less than one standard year, but their impact would reshape the galaxy for millennia to come. As I compiled my final report on human integration into galactic society, I realized that we had fundamentally misunderstood what we were witnessing. We thought we were watching the rise of another conquering empire. Instead, we had watched the birth of galactic evolution itself. Humans had not simply survived our deadliest weapons. They had transformed them into tools for lifting every species to new heights of achievement. The same liquid that had once dissolved civilizations now powered technologies that made the impossible routine. And somewhere in the back of my analytical processes, a disturbing thought continued to surface. If humans could evolve this rapidly in response to Hydra weapons, what other capabilities might they develop when faced with different challenges? I decided that was a question for future observers to contemplate. For now, the galaxy was safe, prosperous, and free from the terror that had defined it for centuries. And if that safety came at the price of human supremacy, well, at least they were benevolent supremacists. Most of the time,